she's on your mind right now, and you don't even know why, that's not random. That's not harmless. And it's definitely not love, at least not the kind you think it is. Because the most dangerous woman in your life is never the one who chases you. It's the one who disappears just enough to make you chase her in your own head. Before we go deeper, take a second, subscribe to the channel, like this video, because what you're about to understand might change how you see every connection you've ever had. Now listen carefully. You're not just thinking about her, you're looping her, over and over. Conversations, moments, what she said, what she didn't say, and the silence. That silence is loud, isn't it? Louder than any word she ever gave you. And that's exactly where the trap is set. Because when a woman is always on your mind but never calls, never reaches out, never breaks that distance, it creates something powerful inside you. Not clarity, not closure, but tension. Psychological tension. And your brain is wired to resolve tension at any cost. So what do? You fill in the gaps. You create meanings that don't exist. You romanticize the unknown. You start believing there must be something deeper, something hidden, something real behind her silence. Because accepting that there might be nothing there at all feels unbearable. And that's where you lose control. Because now, she's not just a woman anymore. She's a question, a mystery. And your mind hates unanswered questions, so it keeps going back, again and again and again. You check your phone, you replay memories, you imagine scenarios where she finally reaches out, finally explains, finally chooses you. But none of that is happening in reality. It's all happening inside your head. And here's the uncomfortable truth most men never hear. If she wanted to call you, she would. No confusion, no mixed signals, no, maybe she's busy. People make time for what matters to them, always. So if she's always on your mind, but you're nowhere in her actions, then what you're feeling isn't connection. It's emotional captivity. And the longer you stay in it, the harder it becomes to escape. And here's where it gets even deeper. Because what you're experiencing right now isn't just about her. It feels like it is. It feels personal. It feels like she did something to you. But the truth is, she triggered something that was already inside you. That constant thinking, that pull you can't shake, that need to understand why she hasn't reached out. That's not love. That's your mind reacting to uncertainty. You see, when someone gives you just enough attention to be felt, but not enough to feel secure, your brain goes into overdrive. It starts searching for patterns, clues, hidden meanings. It wants to solve her like a puzzle. Because if you can solve her, maybe you can finally relax. But you never do. Because she's not giving you anything solid to stand on. No consistency, no reassurance, no real presence. Just fragments. And fragments are dangerous because your mind tries to complete them. So you build a version of her that may not even exist. You remember the way she smiled, the way she spoke to you, the moments where it felt like there was something real. And you hold on to those moments like proof. Proof that she felt it too. Proof that this meant something. But what you're actually holding on to is potential, not reality. And potential is one of the most addictive emotional experiences a man can have, because it keeps you invested without ever giving you a return. It whispers, just wait, just one more message, just one more moment, and everything will make sense. But it never does. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start adjusting yourself. You become more available, more patient, more understanding. You excuse her silence. You justify her distance. You tell yourself she's different. She just needs time. She's not like everyone else. But let me tell you something most men avoid hearing. The right woman doesn't leave you guessing. She doesn't leave you sitting in silence wondering where you stand. She doesn't make you question your value or your place in her life. Because when a woman truly sees you, you feel it. Clearly, consistently, not occasionally, not when it's convenient for her, and definitely not only inside your own imagination. So if she's living rent-free in your mind, while you're absent from her reality, then you're not building something with her. You're slowly losing yourself to an idea of her. And the part that stings the most is how real it feels. Because to you, this isn't just some passing thought. This isn't casual. It feels intense, meaningful, like something important is unfolding beneath the surface. And that's exactly why it's so hard to let go. But intensity doesn't always mean truth. Sometimes intensity is just confusion mixed with desire. You felt something. Maybe she did too, for a moment. A glance, a conversation, a spark that caught you off guard. And your mind took that moment and stretched it into something bigger, something lasting, something worth holding on to. But here's the reality most men struggle to accept. A moment is not a commitment. A feeling is not a decision. And just because something felt powerful to you doesn't mean it meant the same to her. That's where the disconnect begins. Because while you're replaying everything, trying to decode what it meant, she's already moved forward. Not because she's cold, not because she's playing games, but because for her, it didn't carry the same weight. And that's a hard truth to sit with, because it forces you to confront something deeper, something uncomfortable. You weren't actually building something together, you were building it alone, piece by piece, thought by thought, feeling by feeling, until it felt real enough to believe in. And now, your mind is attached to something that never fully existed outside of you. That's why it's so difficult to break free. Because you're not just letting go of her, you're letting go of the version of the story you created. The what if, the maybe, the future you imagined without ever having a foundation. And your mind resists that. It keeps pulling you back, telling you, what if she comes back? What if she realizes? What if you just wait a little longer? But understand this clearly. Waiting does not create value. Silence does not build connection. And time does not turn uncertainty into clarity. All it does is deepen the illusion. So if you're still holding on, still hoping she'll reach out, still believing there's something unfinished between you, ask yourself honestly, are you holding on to her? Or are you holding on to how she made you feel in a moment that's already gone? Now let's talk about something most men never consciously notice, but feel deeply every single day in this situation. You start checking your phone differently. Not just checking it, anticipating it. Every notification creates a small spike of hope. Every silence creates a small drop of disappointment. And without realizing it, your emotional state becomes tied to something completely outside your control. That's not attraction anymore. That's dependency forming. And the longer this goes on, the more your focus shifts away from your own life. Your goals, your routines, your energy, they all start orbiting around one question. Will she reach out? And that question quietly becomes the center of your mental world. You might still go to work, still meet people, still function normally on the outside, but internally, a part of you is always waiting, always listening, always half present. And that waiting changes you. It makes you more passive, more distracted, more emotionally available to something that isn't returning that same energy. You begin to give without receiving, think without clarity, invest without confirmation. And here's the truth you need to face. When a connection is real and mutual, it doesn't require this level of mental effort just to exist. You don't have to analyze silence. You don't have to decode absence. You don't have to convince yourself that maybe she's just busy for weeks on end. Clarity is simple. Interest is visible. Effort is reciprocated. So when those things are missing, your mind steps in to compensate. It creates stories, explanations, and possibilities to protect you from the discomfort of reality. Because reality, in this case, might mean accepting that she is not choosing you. And that's the part most men avoid the longest. Instead of facing that directly, they stay in the loop, thinking more, hoping more, waiting more, believing that if they just understand her better or give it a little more time, something will shift. But her silence is already the answer, not a confusing one, a clear one. The confusion exists only in your interpretation of it, and once you see that, something powerful happens. You begin to reclaim your attention. You begin to notice how much mental space this has been taking from you, and you start to realize the real cost of her not calling isn't her absence. It's what her absence has been doing to your presence in your own life. At some point, you have to ask yourself a very honest question. Why her? Not in a surface level way, but in a deeper psychological sense. Why is it her silence that has your attention? Why is it her absence that feels so loud? Because there are thousands of women in the world, yet your mind chose to anchor itself to this one. And the answer usually isn't about her at all. It's about what she represents. For many men, it's not the woman. It's the feeling of being chosen by someone who seems just out of reach. The subtle challenge, the uncertainty, the emotional distance that creates a sense of pursuit. Because pursuit can feel like purpose. It gives your mind something to focus on, something to solve, something to earn. And without realizing it, you start attaching value to the difficulty itself. If she was easy to understand, easy to reach, easy to connect with, your mind might not hold on to her the same way. There would be no mystery, no tension, no unanswered questions to keep you engaged. But because she's inconsistent, your brain elevates her importance. It interprets distance as significance. It says, if it's this hard to figure out, it must matter more. And that belief keeps you locked in. But difficulty is not the same as depth. Distance is not the same as value. And emotional unavailability is not something you need to solve in order to prove yourself. This is where many men start losing themselves without noticing. They begin to chase not the person, but the validation that might come from finally being chosen by that person. It becomes less about connection and more about completion, less about her and more about what her attention would mean about you. And that's a dangerous shift, because now your self-worth starts to tie itself to an outcome you don't control. So when she doesn't call, it doesn't just feel like silence, it feels like rejection. Even if she never promised you anything, even if nothing was clearly defined, your mind still interprets her absence as a reflection of your value. But here's the truth you need to anchor into. Her decision to not reach out is not a measurement of your worth. It is a reflection of her priorities, her interest level, and her emotional availability, not your identity. And once you separate those two things, her behavior stops defining you. Because a man who understands this no longer waits to be chosen in silence. He pays attention to who shows up consistently, and he chooses accordingly. So now let's bring this all together. Because understanding is only powerful if it leads to a shift in how you move. If she's always on your mind but never calls, never reaches out, never meets you halfway, then the most important thing you can do is not to try harder, not to think more, not to decode her further. It's to step back and observe what is actually happening. Right now, your attention is being directed towards someone who is not directing any attention back toward you. And your mind is filling that imbalance with meaning. But meaning without mutual action becomes illusion. So the real work here is not about her at all. It's about you reclaiming control over where your thoughts go, where your energy goes, and what you allow yourself to become emotionally invested in. Because the longer you stay mentally attached to someone who is not present in your life, the more you normalize one-sided emotional investment. And that pattern can follow you into future connections if you don't recognize it now. You deserve clarity. You deserve consistency. You deserve reciprocation that doesn't require guessing, waiting, or hoping in silence. And those things are not proven by what someone says once. They are proven by what someone does repeatedly. So instead of asking, why hasn't she called? A more powerful question is, why am I still giving this person access to my mind when they have shown no effort to be present in my life? That question shifts your perspective from waiting to awareness, from attachment to observation, from emotional dependence to personal responsibility. Because at the end of the day, the goal is not to force someone to choose you. The goal is to become a man who no longer tolerates uncertainty where clarity should exist. And when you reach that point, something interesting happens. The thoughts don't control you anymore. The silence doesn't pull you in anymore. And the person who once occupied your mind starts to fade, not because you tried to forget her, but because you finally chose yourself with enough consistency that your mind had no choice but to follow.